What is up, guys? Jeff here for One Fish, Two Fish. Today we are going to do a fun video about making fun of the owner and some of the dumbest stuff I have ever done while building my store. So I got started in this about 20 years ago. I started in my basement. I had a bunch of tanks that I did together. I'm going to tell you a couple of, I'm not going to do a very long video on this because I could talk for 3 hours about this. It is funny to me at this point. It almost ruined my life a number of times. So I'm going to tell you guys a couple of the really dumbest stuff I ever did. Give you guys an idea of some big don'ts. If you're going to try setting up a store, trying to do fish for breeding, anything like that. You can hear Nemo in the background chirping at me because I won't let him on my shoulder. But I'm going to give you guys just a quick run through on the stages of where I got started, what we did, how we got built, and the really dumb stuff that we've done along the way. Let's start with that. So the first stage of what I tried to do when I was doing this, the first thing that got me hooked on it was I was at one of my local chain stores. I happened to know the guy that owned that ran the place. He was the manager at the store, so I sort of had access to the lists. I got to look at prices of fish. Now remember, this is a long time ago. This is going on 20 years ago, so obviously the prices have changed, but you guys will still get the gist of it. Back in the day, the fish costs were minute. They were very small. They were very cheap compared to what an actual fish cost when I paid for it. And I didn't understand any of it. I didn't understand the shipping freight. I didn't understand how hard it actually was to take in 5 boxes of fish, put everything away, keep everything healthy and all that. So my first start after seeing these lists, thinking in my head that I could get very wealthy very quick. You know, when I would see a blue hippo tang on the list for $5, and then I would say, well, that fish sells for $100 here. The math on that seemed really good. Now, I'm not the brightest 20-year-old at the time, but the math seemed really good on that even if 5 died, I would still do really well. So I went out and I started to look for where to buy this stuff. Because where they bought it from was just a supplier from within Canada. Back in the day, this was before I had a store. None of those suppliers would sell to me, and I know why now, and I appreciate why now, because the overhead to actually having a store can be astronomical. You know, we run, you know, on any given month, we can run $25,000, $30,000 just to be here. By the time we pay everybody, by the time we pay rent, by the time we pay our ridiculous electric bill, our ridiculous gas bill, and all that stuff, it does cost a lot just to have the spot. So I do get it now. When I got started, I went and I would reach out to anybody that would talk to me. Anybody that sold fish, anybody that I could find on you know, videos, anything in the Philippines or Indonesia or different spots in those countries. But that's where Thailand, Indonesia was where I was mostly looking at. So the first mistake I made was not realizing that online scams are a thing. So I'll give you the biggest mistake in 20 years that I made while doing my store. When I got started, I had very little money. So I put together everything I could, borrowed, begged, everything I could get from family, friends, anybody that was interested in getting in on this with me, and blah. Big dreams at the time, lots of thought of lots of profit. It was going to go well. So I chalked up a little bit of money. The first list I got was from a company in, now these numbers, I have talked about this before in different like Facebook stuffs and all that stuff, so if my numbers are not dead to right, don't yell at me too much. This is 20 years ago, but I do remember the bulks. I had a list of fish, and stupid me didn't actually realize that just the fish list didn't mean anything, that there was, the shipping was where the big charge was going to come, and all that stuff. So I put an order in that was huge, thinking this company back 20 years ago also sold live rock. And the live rock price that they wanted me to pay was $2 a pound. My store, where I had lived, was selling this rock for like $18 a pound. So in my head, I said, well, it's rock. I mean, I can't kill rock. Obviously, you can't kill rock. But all I needed for the rock was a big bin, leave it in, spin some water. The guy that I knew was kind of walking me through. He's like, keep a heater in it, keep something in it for decaying the bacteria to keep going. But it's really not hard. So stupid me, not realizing that scams were a thing, I placed an order for around 5,000 pounds of live rock. Because I'm brain dead. The bill for that was around $10,000. And then I also ordered about $5,000 worth of fish. So, of course, with dealing with these companies, and that it's still for the most part true today, but now obviously you just do some more due diligence to make sure that you're not sending it to Joe Blow. So I placed the order. I got a bill for around $15,000. I did the math on that bill. I could turn that $15,000 into about $100,000 off of one trip. My brain was going a mile a minute. That seemed like a great idea. There was no way it was going to go bad. Let's do it. So I go to the bank. This is every dollar that I have. This is I was about 3 months into my first mortgage. I had everything I had in the world for money. I had to this. So here's where the story gets really fun. I went and after getting this invoice, took all this money, and I wired it to somebody in Indonesia. They sent me a tracking for the rock. They said it sounded very legit to me. They said, we're going to send your rock a different way because it weighs so much. It's easier to send it this way. And we're going to send your fish through air. All made complete sense to me. It all seemed fine. So I send them $15,000. Again, 20 years ago. Every cent I had in the world, that would be like sending, I can't imagine, every cent I had in the world, all the money I had borrowed, most of it wasn't even mine, most of it I had borrowed, friends, family, pissed a lot of people off that week. And I sent it to someone I've never met. Someone that I had talked to for about a week online. Somebody that never talked to me again after they got my money. So, in that, that set me back forever. When I had done that, I had built a system of, I think it was around 30 20-gallon tanks in my basement, all off one sump with a big massive skimmer. So the downfall to this system, when we glued it all together, we didn't know what primer was. We were broke, so we just bought the glue. I mean, it's not going to hurt anything. After about 4 days of it running, obviously I start to see leaks everywhere. I flood my basement, ruined my floor in my basement. This was a brand new house at the time. Not a very nice house, but it was a brand new house at the time. And I ruined my whole basement. You can tell at this point my wife obviously loves me because not only did I bankrupt us, not only did I flood what I called my basement, she called the space she was letting me use, and ruin everything. I was out money, and as soon as it was done, as soon as I stopped getting emails back, as soon as I stopped getting reports, I realized what I did. I realized that I just sent $15,000 to someone I didn't know, like an idiot. I realized that I did an order of 5,000 pounds of live rock because I was greedy, and I wanted everything they had. And I thought if I got it all, locally they wouldn't be able to get any, and then I would be able to sell it, and it would make sense. Where hindsight, one might say, well, why didn't you buy 500 pounds of live rock to try it? Where were you 20 years ago? So that was my first jump into what is now One Fish, Two Fish. My second from there was, after all that went horribly wrong, it took me about 3 months to chalk together another shot at this. This one went better until it went worse. So this one went better in that I did find a supplier in the Philippines that would actually send me fish that ended up being a real person. It did everything he said he would do, and it went well on his end. He sent me a couple boxes of fish. My first order, I went crazy. I just was a kid in a candy store. This one, this one, this one, this one, this one. I bought everything they had. I ended up getting 7 boxes of fish, which here now with staff, with 100 fish tanks, 7 boxes of fish is still a lot of fish. It still takes time to put away. I got all this stuff. I had no idea. I didn't know what ammonia was. I didn't know that as soon as you start cutting these bags open, it gets really bad really quick. I didn't know that once you started the process, there's no going back to it. Once you got the fish, you had to get them in, blah, blah, blah. At the time, the shipping was horrendous, but thankfully, I had some very nice people help me who actually I ended up having a falling out with them because of me. That were very nice. They walked through this step by step. Took a lot more time than they had to. I'm not going to say who they are because shipping currently sucks. But they were very nice to me at the time. They took a lot more time than they had to. They went way above and beyond. They walked through a stupid kid, and they got my fish to me, which they shouldn't have. They did. God love them for it. So I got the fish, and I get to putting them away. So then I get to my house, I get to my basement, and I'm looking at all these fish, and I'm like, what the hell did I do? Why do I have so many fish? And stupid me, I got fish nobody wanted. I got fish that are just not easy to sell fish. I got a whole bunch of butterflies, I got a whole bunch of angels, I got a whole ton of fish that don't go together, that are not reef safe, that are just really tricky to sell. So I, in a panic, tried to figure out how I was going to acclimate all these, because back then I acclimated individual with a little turkey baster. So I went out after I got all these, and I bought about 300 tiny little dollar store Rubbermaids. I lined my floor. If you guys are not, if you haven't made a comment, LOL, you're an idiot, below yet, cue the time to do that. I put 300 of these out across my entire basement floor, and I went individually myself, and I went through 300 fish. I cut the bag, I dumped them in the first one, and then I moved on to the next one. So I don't know if you've ever acclimated many fish that have been in bags for a long time, but let me tell you, as soon as you open a bag that has been tied up for 40 hours, ammonia is instant. It starts the minute you cut that bag open. So you can imagine how long it took me to cut 300 bags. By the time I got to cutting the last one, first one was dead. They were starting to go bad about halfway through. I could notice that they looked okay when I put them in, but I could notice. So I had to get, I had 2 other people come over and help me get through it. We got through opening them all. We started acclimating them all. We started getting them all in the tubs. We started getting them acclimated to my water. I spent 2 hours doing that. So stupid. Such a dumb, just amateur hour at its worst. And what is worse, it's not amateur hour. It was doing no research. It was not having a clue what I was doing and just being a stupid kid and just thinking I would get through it. Horrible idea, cost me a fortune. No brains at all. So that ended up costing me around, it actually wasn't so bad back then. It ended up costing me around $2,500 if I remember. And the guy actually let me send him half the money and then half when I got it. So it worked out okay, like he was real, he sent me fish, blah, blah, blah. So out of the 300 fish, I would say over a 24-hour period, I killed about 200 of them. That was the end of my dream of keeping fish. I was devastated. And it was worse because I knew I did. I knew that those fish came in okay. I killed those fish. My stupidity, my lack of effort, my lack of knowledge, my lack of everything killed those fish. So that ended me. I shut everything down. I just stopped the tanks, drained all the water. I hated it. I didn't do anything for about 6 months. About 6 months later, I don't like to be a quitter. I said I wanted to give it one more go. I had stayed in contact with this guy with the fish because I truly didn't believe this had anything to do with him. I don't think any of it was his fault. I think he did what he was supposed to do. He packed them good. I had, out of the like 300 fish, I think I had like 5 DOA, which is incredible. It wasn't. I didn't see it as his fault. I seen it as 100% it was my fault. It wasn't the airline's fault. I didn't see it as, if I would have known what I was doing, I probably could have taken care of these fish. So fast forward about 6 months. I've got most of my stuff caught up that I lost being an idiot, and I buy from my neighbor, who gave me a very good price on it, a little barn. Because doing this in my basement had driven my entire family crazy. It made me super cranky. Wasn't fun to be around. Not like I am now. So I bought a little barn outside of my house. I basically moved everything to my basement, out to there, plumbed everything the same way, all into one system, which is brain dead stupid. Just a horrible idea. Because if you get anything in that system, you have to treat, all 30 tanks. It's okay to do it that way if you have multiple systems. If you've got a bunch of different things, you can put different fish, different spots, and all that. If you only have one to set it up all in one, sorry, but it's brain dead stupid. It's so much more risk than it's worth. Now today you can do a lot more stuff with it. You can run tabs on it. There are so many more machines that will actually help you with it. That you're more likely to get away with it. But again, I would never do it again with only one system that size, because it didn't work at all. So I set up the garage, the little barn thing that I bought. It's all on its own. I add power to it, which added about $500 a month to my electric bill. So what I did in there was just heat the building. I didn't heat the tanks individually. I had heaters in the system just to keep it to where I needed it, but for the most part I heated the building and it was fine. When I was doing that, I did actually have a couple suppliers that I kind of got away with buying from. They probably shouldn't have sold to me because I wasn't a real storefront store, but I did have a location, I did have an address, I did have a separate building, but it probably wasn't fully legit to what it should have been, and I appreciate it now. And actually, so this was very ill lasted. This lasted about 3 months. I did 2 orders in this. They did go better. I did have a better system to it. We were able to keep some fish. It wasn't until the first disease sort of broke out that I, again, 100% because of me, very not advised to, no knowledge on what I was dealing with. No, it didn't have the internet 20 years ago the way we do now for the access, where you can ask. There are forums, there are groups, you can ask a lot of questions, get a lot of answers. Not all of them are good, but you can get different opinions. 20 years ago, that didn't exist to the way it does now. So, and it wouldn't have mattered because I was too stupid. I didn't do any of it anyway. So after the second order I did, where I got about a week after I got them, I noticed some ick was starting to outbreak. And then some of the people that were coming over to buy them noticed it and obviously weren't interested in buying them, and I didn't understand why. So after about 3 months, another probably $15,000 with the building and all the stuff that it cost me. That was when I decided that I had 2 options. Stop being an idiot. Stop doing this altogether because it's not going well. I'm costing myself a fortune. I am going to bankrupt my family. I already had. I was spending every dollar we had coming in to pay back what I was borrowing to do this, and it was always going bad. So I decided that at that point, my 2 options were to do it right, learn what I was doing, do it right, or stop. Which meant I did stop for, again, another couple months. While I was doing it, I still did always want to keep a saltwater fish tank. So I was still learning about it a little bit, just for myself. I wanted to know what I was doing wrong. I wanted to know what I bought in fish, what were good, what went together, what didn't. After spending a little bit of time learning about it, I actually ridiculously fell back in love with it, way worse than I ever was. And that is when I went out and I actually set up my first little location, which is from the province I live in, which if you've ever been in it, I know a lot of you guys have, it is a bit of a shit show. It was what I had the ability to do. I had a couple of friends that are awesome that helped me do a lot of it. I had people there plumbing for very little money. I had people there painting for very little money, sometimes no money. So God love all those people helping that get set up. And I did that for about 7 years. Not super successfully, but at least it was enough to be there. It was paying itself. It was making, and again, there was a lot of problems with that spot. A lot of it was with me. There was a lot of little upgrades I could have done to just cleaning the store up, and just because it was only me, I never had employees there. I never had any long-term employees there. It was very tricky to actually get everything done on my own. And I'll be honest, full disclosure, I'm kind of lazy, so that doesn't go well. To the point of, whenever I set up that store, here's how, whenever I set up that store, I offered a guy 30% of the whole store for $4,000. Thankfully, he said no, which was not smart on his part. Very, very, very thankfully that he said no. But that was, when I got started, how little, how hard it was. And I can appreciate how, when people are starting stuff like this, it is super hard. It is a lot more money than people think, especially the person doing it. I had, whenever I got that store set up, I had what I thought would fill the store for dry goods. I had $10,000. I had 3 racks to fill up. Each rack had 4 shelves. I spent the $10,000 on an order. It showed up. I put it all away. 1 rack, 2 shelves filled. The rest was empty. So, there is a lot more to it, a lot of which I didn't know, a lot of money I left on the table by being an idiot, by not doing my research, by not actually by not doing a proper business to what I knew I was doing. I just knew I loved fish, and I wanted to dive in and do it, so I did. But almost, I would say, 12 or 13 years later, when I had been into it, I was at a friend's house. I'm not saying there was alcohol involved, but there might have been. And we were talking about it, and he was an older gentleman, and he asked me a question that I didn't put much thought into. I just thought he was kind of being silly, and asked me how much money I would need, because I'd always talked about wanting to open something big over in this province. And he asked me how much money I needed. And jokingly, I said, give me $25,000. And that's where I thought the conversation ended. Like I said, we were drinking. It wasn't a very serious business meeting. And the next day, he messaged me and said, okay, I got the money. When do you want to start? I had no idea what he was talking about. We went over, had a discussion. So we realized, we kind of put together an actual plan of what we would need. We got a couple other partners. Everybody put in some money. And 7 years ago, we opened what is now known as One Fish, Two Fish, which is what we call it. They made us name it a big, long nine-word thing, because in Nova Scotia, you've got to name it something that is direct to what you do. Sounds super silly. I don't know how McDonald's is a thing, Burger King is a thing, how they're... Anyway, but we had to name it something that was very direct to what we did, so we ended up having to call it One Fish, Two Fish, starting with aquarium supplies. My staff, everybody here, we just refer to it as One Fish, Two Fish, obviously, so... But yeah, so, to tie it all up, in the 20 years of building this place, I have lost, at a time when I did not have nickels to rub together, I have given away about $15,000 that I will never see again, to people that were not real. People were real. The stories, what I was buying was never real, was never a thing. Which is why I am, and I'm actually going to do a video. I might have actually, I'm going to do a video probably within a week or 2 weeks of this one, of actually a video to shout out a couple of the suppliers. We're not going to do anything negative on here. Trust me, I want to, because it's fun. But we try to get away from the negative stuff. It's no fun. It's, it doesn't really help anything, because we have a couple of things that have happened recently that I'd love to talk about. But it is negative stuff, and we're going to try to stay away from that. But I do have a couple suppliers that I've been with forever that are awesome, that are not like other suppliers in this industry, that what they do, what they offer, what they do for me is ridiculous. No other suppliers do it. So I'm actually going to do a video on that and shout out a couple of different spots so that you guys know, because I know a lot of you guys obviously are not from here. And these suppliers are everywhere. They're in the United States, they're in Canada, they're in a bunch of different countries. So so you guys know how actually awesome they are, and you guys can support them wherever it is you guys live. Anyway, guys, that was just a whole long looking at me talk, but just wanted to give you guys some insight on where we actually started from, how ridiculous I started out, the amount of dumb stuff I did to get started, that we did not build this in a day, we did not build this in a year, it took many years to get to where we are, but I hope you guys liked the video. Make sure to like it, make sure to subscribe, comment below. We'll see you in the next one.